This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to the latest Blood Red Liverpool FC podcast from the Liverpool Echo. My name is Dan Kay and I'm hosting today alongside my esteemed colleagues Ian Doyle and Connor Dunn. How are we, chaps?
I'm fine. Yourself?
Fair to middling, Connor?
I am very well, thank you, minus a cast on my hand.
Minus a cast on your hand, but on the brink of a lovely holiday, so no worry, you are full of the
Still
D-mob.
super chipper.
Are you going anywhere nice?
I am going somewhere quite nice, Ian, yeah. But
Not St Helens?
No. There's nothing can compete with that, let's be honest.
Well, can't argue with that. As you will all be aware, it is the international break at the moment, or as some of us refer to it as international drivel. However, football ploughs on regardless, as does the Liverpool Echo and our need for content. So here we are with a Q&A from your questions, because it is a weekend, everyone's in a football mood, and without anything to slake that thirst, we're going to provide stuff for you. So without no further ado, we'll get started with the first question. We've had quite a few sent in to us today, haven't we, chaps? And the first question is from Larry, also known as @CubicL82 on Twitter. And his question is, why are there so many international breaks and why does time slow to a crawl during said breaks? Ian, can you shed any light on that for us?
I could give you a sensible answer if you so wish. There are 5 international breaks during the course of the year. One of them's in June, which basically is when the season's finished anyway.
You can't count that.
I know, but there's September, October, November and March. And that's the international calendar is done in a way that means that countries look to play 2 games in them, so they play 10 games during the course of a year, which isn't that many when you say it like that, especially when 2 of them are in June. And half the time, countries don't take up that option. Certainly England don't tend to all of the time. But I think it's more that it just makes the start to the start of the season a little bit higgledy-piggledy, isn't it? It's like just the minute you get some momentum, there's an international break. Yeah. And if you're not an international player, then you just have a nice week or so off and then you go for another week's training. But if you're like the likes of Jordan Henderson, anyone who plays regularly for the country, then you're playing all the time non-stop. And while it can be a bit of a stretch for us to fill the website with stuff, and there's certainly not the interest in England in these parts as there is in maybe other parts of the country,
right down south,
we'll get to that in a minute. It's stuff still happens, and the players still are involved, and we've said many times to play for the country is still an honour for almost all of these players. So for them, it's still a big deal. It is just the fact that it looks as like Liverpool play 7 games in 21 days. Just come to the end of that, they're going to do the same thing again between October and November, and then when they come back from the November one, it's just crack on, and they've got a ton of games then as well. So I think sometimes fans look at it and go, well, why couldn't we be playing a game then? But there's always a room for international football. You've got your World Cups, your European Championships, Copa America, all of them. They're always going to exist, at least this way, the way that they've done it for the past, I think it's 15, nearly 20 years now.
Like that,
It never used to be like this, did it? Sometimes I remember when
did squeeze them in.
England played Ireland in a friendly on the same day that Liverpool played Crystal Palace in a semi-final League Cup game.
Was that the game that was called off?
That was the game that was called off, yeah.
Crowd trouble, the first leg when Fowler scored in the last minute.
Exactly, yeah. So that would never happen now, would it? But in the old days, that used to happen all the time. But so I think that's the thing, is that they've made a bit more space for international football, and I think fans just have, if they're not used to it now, then tough.
Well, I'll put the second part of the question to you, Connor. Why does time slow to a crawl during these breaks?
Do you know what? I actually slightly agree that time does seem to go a bit slow. I don't think there's the anticipation of Champions League football midweek, Premier League football the weekend. There is more excitement over Liverpool than England, and I totally get that. But as Ian says, international football for me particularly has been around pretty much my whole football supporting avid life, and I'm so used to having these breaks. They just kind of pass me by a little bit.
Second nature, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I don't know if that's the same for everyone, and I know probably my answer here won't be as popular with Liverpool fans as it might be in certain other parts of the country. But I personally love England because growing up down south, and I've spoken to a few people about this and kind of tried to work out why, and I guess it's because, particularly from where I live, the closest teams to me are maybe like the closest big teams like Crystal Palace, say, but they're not going on big European trips, so you don't get that appetite. So when you go away with England, you're all together and you're going away to all these European games, and it's kind of like that's a similar sort of vibe. So England, for where I'm originally from, is a lot bigger than it is up here. So I still love England and love watching England football, but I guess because all of the when you have a Premier League weekend, you have sometimes a game on a Friday, a game on a Saturday, a game on a Sunday, a game on a Monday, and because of the way the results work and things like that, you're interested every single day of that.
Half a week almost, isn't it? Friday to Monday.
But then, for me, just when England play, I'm interested. I obviously like to watch the Liverpool players. Senegal played Brazil yesterday and things like that. But it's not quite got the same pull. The results don't have the same pull. Or the entertainment doesn't have the same factor, I don't think. So I kind of get both sides of it, really.
I think the other thing with England in international football is when they played away from Wembley for 6 or 7 years in the early 2000s, they went around the country and they played a couple of games at Liverpool. They played one before. They played two, didn't they?
At least two.
They played the Finland game, and then there was Uruguay was there before the World Cup.
Murphy.
So that, they're both of those games. Anfield was full, and they played an awful lot of games at Old Trafford.
I think that should happen.
And they
more
went
often.
to Middlesbrough,
Absolutely
and I think there was more connection between the whole country and the England team.
Yeah, like they do with the cricket. Yeah, and to be fair, like most other international football countries do.
But then that's the whole Wembley question, isn't it? It's not a white elephant because it's quite clearly there and it's a decent stadium. Maybe not as good as the Millennium Stadium. Maybe not as good as Tottenham's new stadium by all accounts.
I mean, how long is it going to take to pay Wembley off? Because when it reopened in 2007, and they moved the FA Cup semi-finals were there, we were told, well, one of the main reasons is they've got to pay off all the debt, blah, blah, blah. It's 12 years on.
Yeah.
So, it is the national stadium. I've been there often enough, worked there, been there as a fan. It's Wembley. It's even if I've got not a massive amount of admiration for the part of London it's in, and I certainly think as an overall experience, places like Cardiff and other places abroad are a much better experience for a fan. It's got the historical resonance, and I get that, and I can appreciate that. But does it have to have every single big game, every cup final, every semi-final, every England game? Less is more sometimes. I think just to kind of bring this question to a head, because we've got a fair few here. That second question, why does time slow to a crawl? It just kind of occurred to me, and something you pointed out, Ian, the fact that the way the international breaks are set out, there's 3 rat-a-tat-tat right at the start of the season, September, October, November, and then the only other one is March, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think maybe one of the reasons why, I think maybe for club-orientated fans like myself, why it does kind of grind your gears a little bit is that after the long summer break, you're just getting your footy boots back on and into the rhythm and routine of matches every weekend, and it becomes stop-start. So I think maybe that would. I didn't realise until you actually laid that out like that. That does kind of provide a logical kind of explanation as to how some, not all, we have to stress, not all. We know there are plenty of people on Merseyside that wear their St George's crosses with pride, and good luck to them.
That's a very diplomatic answer.
Moving on to the next question by @Yassine Chotter. Has Mo Salah's positional role in the team changed? He seems to be playing a more supportive role now, enticing fouls and getting kicked pillar to post? ? Start with you this time, Connor. What do you reckon?
I don't think his position's changed at all in that respect. I know they've played him down the middle once this season, but he's still on that. I think Liverpool are actually probably playing higher up than they did last season, if I'm honest. I don't think that Salah's getting kicked anymore. I think he has been kicked throughout his whole career. I think all front three take so many kicks, take so many knocks, and that is why I think it's a wonder they don't get injured more than they do. Miracle. Because they play in that and they push those lines so tightly and work so hard at the front of the field. Defenders, they're going to be quicker and they are going to get kicked, and I just think it's become a little bit more obvious perhaps with that Chowdhury challenge. It's come more at the forefront of people's minds that Salah does take a beating in a lot of games. But in terms of the positional play, I don't think he's dropped any deeper. I think maybe Firmino may have done slightly, but Salah particularly, I think he's still up there, and I think he's in there to score goals. And I think you can see that's why Klopp leaves him on the pitch. It doesn't really matter if he's having an average game. He leaves him on because he's there to score. He's there to create that moment of brilliance. And I think you're only going to do that by playing higher up, by playing closer to the goal.
I did a story on that on the subs today, by the way. On Salah gets subbed less often than Mane. It's round about the same, but Firmino's the one who gets subbed more than either of them.
Which is ironic when you think
nearly 60% of his starts he gets subbed.
It's ironic when you think that a lot of people, if asked, would say Firmino is the kind of like the glue that binds this team together. The straw that stirs the drink, if you will. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression.
I have,
only bang on about it every single podcast I ever do. But that does kind of contradict the perception as to the reality.
Or it could be, I'd look at the stats for, obviously they've been together, this is the third season they've been together. For the first season, the 17-18, I think it was something like Salah and Mane was subbed at 50% of the time or something like that. And Firmino was getting up towards 60. But last season it was more both Salah and Mane started 49 games and they both only got subbed 15 times compared to, I think it was near enough 30 the previous year. But Firmino has been the same, and this season he's been gone off in, I think, half the games that he started. Obviously, he had a few injury problems, towards the end of last season. Yeah. And I think the way that he plays the game is that he needs more energy. He's the one that kind of exerts himself mentally as much as anything else. Whereas, going back to the actual question, Salah, I agree with Con. I don't think his position's changed, but I think his role may have a little bit. He simply had to adapt a little bit because Mane has assumed this, not crown as the main goal scorer, but he seems to be getting more of the chances, partly because Salah's getting all the kicks and attracting all the players. They all know he's the danger man.
And it's opening space.
And it's opening spaces, but Firmino's working on that too, and Salah's obviously, he's got Trent behind him who's kind of overlapping an awful lot. Whether that's taken up a little bit of his space, I don't know, but it's interesting that Salah scored that goal against Salzburg when he'd gone up into a central position. And I know we got a question a little bit later on regarding that, so I won't say any more about it.
No spoilers, please. I kind of just wonder on that. Has his position? I think as like you say, this is the third season of them playing together. The fluidity and the adaptability of all of them, the way that they're all willing and able to change roles within that little network as and when the occasion demands.
Against Leicester, didn't they? The start of Leicester game where you had Firmino on the left. Yeah,
switch wings, didn't they? Yeah.
So I think possibly the perception might be to some from outside that maybe he is playing in a different role, whereas in actual fact, in reality, often they're actually playing 2 or 3 different roles each per match, and that's part of their
game's what Klopp loves, isn't it?
A huge asset of this team, the fact that they do have this tactical adaptability, that they can approach any situation or any part of a game in a different way depending on what the coach sees as the best way forward. So question number 3 from iHippier. Sounds like Sammy has been subsumed by the all-seeing, all-dancing behemoth that is Apple. I look forward to seeing him on my Apple Watch sometime soon. Big game next Sunday, as we know. Manchester United against Liverpool, with the Reds going for their 18th consecutive league win and looking to build on their 8-point league at the top of the Premier League. iHippier asks, will Liverpool change their system to treat United like the mid-table team they are? Mic drop. 4-2-3-1 seemed to work better against them at home.
Ooh, that's it. Yeah, that is interesting. That goes back to what I was just about to say about Salah playing a central role. That's what that would involve, wouldn't it? With Firmino going behind, does it mean you get Shaqiri? He's not hardly played. I don't think he'd play. But he could get now. But Origi has done well when he's come on. But then you're saying to one of the midfielders, right, you're not playing. And I know Fabinho has looked a little bit tired at times, but he hasn't played. He didn't play for Brazil.
He didn't go to
he's gone. He's gone, but he didn't play. I suspect he might play against Nigeria in the second game. And I know it's a bit of a travel, but Liverpool aren't playing until, unlike the Newcastle game on the last international break, which was 12:30, and Firmino didn't start. This one's Sunday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That extra kind of 30 hours can make a big difference.
And I think the game is. I think they must be playing on Monday, so it'll be nearly 5 or 6 days. So he should be okay.
Yeah.
So Fabinho, you're going to 4-2-3 when you're asking one of Henderson, Wijnaldum, Milner. I know Keita and Lallana haven't played much. Oxlade-Chamberlain. You're only picking one more alongside Fabinho. Not sure he'll do that at United away. A bit further down the season. So no, I don't think. Well, I understand the question. It's a little bit cheeky because United haven't been very good this season. And bearing in mind how they approached the game last year, which we have spoke in the last podcast. No, I don't see it being 4-2-3-1.
I thought against Leicester at home that they might start 4-2-3-1, and they did eventually switch. But yeah, as you say, it's at Old Trafford. I know United seem like they're there for the taking. They don't seem great. They are a bit of a mess in a lot of factions up and down the club, but without a doubt, they're going to raise their game against Liverpool. It's a classic phrase, but Liverpool going to Old Trafford will literally give them the lift. And make no mistake about it, they will play better than they have in any of the 8 games so far this season.
Yeah.
So I just think to start with a 4-2-3-1 at Old Trafford, it just might be a bit tricky. The only person I would probably make a case for is Origi coming in, Salah playing in the middle, and then it's just really hard to work out how you set up that system, I think, in terms of this game. So yeah, in answer specifically to the question, I don't see it coming in.
No, I do think it's a good question because I think one of the perceptions of last season's game at Old Trafford at the start of March.
Yes,
it was end of February.
Sorry,
it was United away, then Everton away on consecutive Sundays, wasn't it? And in both of them, arguably, Liverpool took a 0-0 draw away, which, in ordinary circumstances, you'd say is a decent point because of the very, very high performing nature of last season's title race, unfortunately, a point on each occasion wasn't quite enough, and there was maybe a slight feeling that Liverpool didn't quite go for it as much as they have. And in some of the discussions I've had with mates, ahead of this game, I think a number of people are hoping to see Liverpool be a little bit more proactive and front foot than possibly were that last season.
I do think they'll be more attacking.
But I agree with you. I think 4-2-3-1 from the start certainly is a bit on the nose. As the game develops, and as we've just been saying in the last question, Liverpool do have this tremendous tactical flexibility that they can switch as and when a game demands.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Right, next one. P. Lupin. Manchester City have dropped 8 points, but largely due to injury, he suggests. Which player would have the same impact on Liverpool if injured, if any, brackets? Which regular starter would have the least impact if injured, other than Alisson? So a little two-parter there for you, lads.
So
take that one.
I'll take the first one first, the first part of that question. I assume he's talking about Laporte there. He is probably as effective for Man City as Van Dijk is for Liverpool, and I think you probably say if Van Dijk drops out of Liverpool's first team, he would have just a bigger impact, and I think he'd have just a big an effect. I don't think any other player in that team, not losing one of Salah, Mane or Firmino, would have as much effect as losing Van Dijk would out of the whole unit up and down the team, out of the whole commanding presence and leading the line and just giving Liverpool that bit of extra something.
I think maybe a month or two ago you might have said the goalkeeper. But obviously we have been without the goalkeeper for the last month.
It's just not even a question at the moment, is it?
Fair play to Adrian. There's been minimal disruption. But as well as Dejan Lovren played last week, as well as Matic played this season, we all know about Joe Gomez's potential. Van Dijk just has that presence, doesn't he?
Does indeed.
I mean, would you agree with that, Ian?
Yeah, I think Van Dijk would be the one. I mean, a lot of people would have said Alisson. And I think he will make a difference when he comes back. Yeah. I mean, obviously, he can't win them any more points from the games they've already had because they took 24 from 24. But there will come games where he'll make a good save. Adrian's done very well, but I saw one or two people saying, "Oh, the goal he conceded against Leicester shows it's time to bring back Alisson." It's like, no, don't be daft. The keeper's done way better than anyone could have expected.
I don't really think you can underestimate just how much an impact losing Alisson has on a team.
Exactly, which shows you how well Adrian's done, and maybe. Some people have been... a lot of people have been saying that Liverpool's defence isn't as good as last season. The likes of Van Dijk perhaps hasn't been quite at his best. Still only conceded 6 goals in 8 games and they're still the best in the top flight. Admittedly, they have conceded 5 goals in the Champions League, which is only one fewer than they've conceded in 8 games in the Premier League. But that was the same as last year. Same as last year.
Yeah.
What was the second part to that question?
The second part was which regular starter would have the least impact if he was injured?
Oh, that's not a very fair question, is it? I don't think we should answer that.
Listen, you pick these questions here, to be fair.
I mean, it's been
you could argue Alisson.
But you're basically saying which player don't Liverpool need.
Well, I think that's unfair. I think
that's how it could be tipped.
I think you're going to have to pick, if you're going to be really diplomatic about it, it's somebody in the midfield, isn't it? Because they get chop and change. But then none of those are regular starters.
They get chop and change
so much.
Yeah. So none of them.
But you would say Wijnaldum and Henderson are regular starters. They don't start every game, but they're regular starters.
More so than Chamberlain or Keita, for example.
Yeah, so you'd say because they get switched around so much, it's going to be one of them, but I think it's super harsh to say that Liverpool don't need any of them because they play such a vital role. And again, I don't think the impact of what Henderson, what Wijnaldum, and what they all do off the ball as well as on it can be underestimated again.
And when Firmino and Salah didn't play against Barcelona, they won 4-0. Wow. So, but you wouldn't want them... You wouldn't want them missing for every game. Exactly. Some players are better than others. That's why you always want them. They're not going to play every single game, which is why you have the squad. And Liverpool have got players who are of a certain standard of player that are able to come in and do the job. And nearly every single person who's come in over the past 15 months has done as well as, or in the case of the goalkeeper and some other people, even better than people might have thought. Which is why they went 97 points last season and won the Champions League and 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League at the moment. The end.
Hurrah!
Moving on, from Marius Granazvic at Marius GV on Twitter. Why isn't James Milner played more? Hardly puts a foot wrong, covers the whole pitch and creates more with his direct and forward passing than, say, Hendo.
Well, he's a different kind of player. Henderson's always been a midfielder. Milner was like a winger and an attacking midfielder and all that kind of stuff. So
as well as playing a fullback,
and played everywhere.
Very effective fullback.
Everywhere, Milner. I think he plays more than people think. I think at the start of the last 2, possibly 3 seasons...
It'd be interesting to crunch the numbers and see the minutes, wouldn't it?
People went, oh, well, this will be the year that Milner gets phased out. And then by the end of the season, it's like, oh, we need Milner playing. He played in the Champions League final in 2018, because everybody else was injured. Yeah. Last year, he came on a subset at one of the goals.
Yep.
So he's there at the start of the season. He was there for remember last season, first game against West Ham, he set up a couple of goals. Did he play first game this season? I've already forgotten.
This season.
Norwich.
Norwich.
Yeah, Norwich, yeah.
4-1.
Did he do anything then? I can't remember.
No, I'm not sure.
Ages ago.
Yeah. But the point being, if at the end of the season Milner's turning out, absolutely zero people will be surprised.
No.
I don't think it's not that he doesn't play enough. I think he plays just about the right amount given his age, what's asked of him. He's Klopp's go-to guy in terms of, right, we just need something a bit shoring up like they did against Salzburg last midweek. And of course, he sets up the goal for Mane and scores the penalty in the last minute against Leicester, which we've spoken in the past that kind of experience is invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think he plays exactly as he is needed. Klopp's man management in that sort of situation, playing players till they know that they need rest or they can bring them on to make an impact is excellent, to be fair. One thing it's interesting getting asked that question, though, if I'm honest, because before this season started, throughout the transfer window, what did everyone call for? Signings, more players. We need more players. And now we're wondering why players aren't playing as much.
Where's Keita?
Because
Where's
suddenly
Chamberlain?
we might have a bit of squad depth that everyone's just realising. But, Liverpool know what they're doing, don't they? And that's why they didn't need to buy anybody. And that's why we're getting asked these questions. But, Milner has made an impact because they've played him they played him to make an impact. They played him when he's peak and he's ready and he's going to make the biggest impact on a game. So I don't think he needs to play any more or any less than what the manager sees fit.
No, I'd agree with that in general. I mean, I think one of Klopp's greatest assets is how he's managed the legs of his players in the last couple of seasons. In that, the first couple of years, you could argue that the legs kind of fell off a little bit towards the end of the season. Obviously, Liverpool playing such a physically intensive way that it takes a lot out of them, but I think he's got it down to a fine art, particularly with obviously the more senior players who you do have to manage their minutes and their time, and obviously they've got the science and the data to kind of show them the red zones and the hot zones and all the different technical aspects that come into it. I think Milner is one of Klopp's real chief lieutenants. I think there's times when he wants him absolutely on the pitch at the start. I think other times, I remember saying it in the build-up to the final in Madrid, he's for a lot of big games, he's always a great first sub because no matter where the game is, he is smart enough to deliver a job on it. Whether you're chasing the game, whether you're looking to shore things up, he will be able to get on the pitch and he just exudes calm and experience and confidence. And we're only a quarter of the way into this season, if that. But I'm sure I'm not the only Liverpool supporter that's hoping that with his contract running down and expiring at the end of the season, obviously he can sign a pre-contract for someone else from the start of January. I very much hope that he will still be at Anfield next year because I think he's been possibly the greatest free transfer in Liverpool's history.
Yeah, well, Klopp himself said as long as he's there, he wants Milner around, he wants Milner in his setup, he wants Milner in his team. Yeah. Klopp has also said that Milner can deliver those sort of team talks that he can't. And, somebody with 2 Premier Leagues to his name, and that sort of experience going all the way to is vital, and you can't teach something like that. So
you can't buy that experience.
I would say probably just about every single person in the Liverpool fan base will want Milner's contract extended.
Yeah.
It was also interesting what Brendan Rodgers had to say after the game on last weekend. He was asked about Milner because obviously he brought him to Liverpool in 2015.
Of course,
and then he disappeared a couple of weeks later, old Brendan. But he did explain that he had to go there and convince him, and he was told about this, that, and the other. So what I found interesting is that even though he'd won the league twice with Manchester City, and I think did he win an FA Cup? He certainly won a League Cup with Man City.
2011 when he beat Stoke?
Yeah, I think it would have been there. He said he wanted to come to Liverpool because he felt that they had a better chance of winning the Champions League. And this is what Brendan said that he was saying at the time. That's in 2015 because he thought with the history,
horrendous season,
with the history and everything else, he thought Liverpool had a better crack at winning it. And it turns out, got the manager wrong.
He wasn't getting booed at City before. He certainly will be after that.
Well, I really don't understand why he gets booed at City because he gave them everything. Remember the 3-2 game Liverpool beat Man City 2014?
Oh, he
came on at half time, and then within about 10 minutes he set up 2 goals. It was brilliant. It was only Coutinho, obviously,
You can
More live for
understand
Liverpool?
sometimes when supporters do take the knock, get upset with players who've left for whatever reason.
Luis Suarez needs no reminding anymore.
Well, yeah, but for me, Milner's not the type to go mouthing off. No. He clearly didn't get at the time in 2015. Liverpool were not really a rival for Manchester City either. So it is truly bizarre. The lack of gratitude and the poor reception he gets every time he goes back there. I mean, he's big enough and strong enough to take it, but maybe it says a little bit about. I think it says more about City supporters than it does about Milner.
Well, the club certainly don't think that. City's
we shall probably leave City supporters right there and then, though, shouldn't we?
Yeah, let's not go on that. Yeah. That's not a question. Let's continue.
I'll take my sage advice from my good colleague Ian here. Next question is from Momo Debino. Tremendous name. What are your concerns, fears, brackets, if any, for what could derail our season and prevent our first league win in 30 years? Also, do you think there's room for improvement in the current squad? And if so, where?
I'll take this one. Start with, I think, because obviously we've just said before about if Van Dijk gets injured, but I think Liverpool in the longer term, depending on what the games are, I think they could kind of cope with that a little bit, because they do have 3 decent enough centre-backs to cover. But imagine if Trent and Andy Robertson got injured in the same week.
Good point.
What would happen then? Because as we've mentioned before,
Gomez and Milner, solid Joes though they are,
but they'd have to completely change the midfield then.
Yeah,
they have got that option.
I know they have the option,
plan,
but that is 4 positions then changing realistically, and then that will also
impact
on. And I know we've talked about tactical flexibility, but it still needs what Klopp loves, rhythm. You need to play a few games doing it. Okay, Liverpool have got themselves in a position whereby 8 points clear. They've almost bought themselves a couple of games to sort things out, but it depends when the games are. I mean, say the games were when the next couple of games, United, Tottenham, City, that would be a particularly bad time for your best players to get injured or your most important players that can't be replaced. Yeah. Then maybe a bit further down the line when they're playing without, no disrespect to them, the likes of Watford and teams like that, where you might want to rotate people out of the team anyway, certainly at home. So that would be my worry, would be if one of the fullbacks got injured. Certainly, I say certainly more Trent than Robertson, simply because we know Milner can do a job at left back, and I think Gomez, because he was out for so long, and he is a centre back. I think he's still young as well. I think he'd be more of he find it more of a struggle to fit in at right back, because nobody else really can do what Trent can do there.
Go on, Dan. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think defensively, I think there wouldn't be a massive drop off if you had Gomez and Milner there. I think the difference where you would notice is going forward and the general balance of the midfield and the forward momentum of the team. Hopefully it's not something we'll ever have to discover if the two of them are out at the same time, but these are all the vagaries of a 9-month football season, and you have to kind of roll with the punches.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to take a bit on the second part of that question about, if there's room for improvement, and without a shadow of a doubt, there's room for improvement up and down every single club in league football, in world football. Van Dijk and everybody like that will always say in their interviews, when they're asked, are you playing at the top of the game? No, we've got room to improve. And of course they do. Nobody's perfect. At the head of the field, Liverpool could be getting more chances for the front three even. They could be conceding less goals. You could make a case probably for every single position and play on the pitch where Liverpool could improve slightly. That's not to say they're not absolutely probably one of the, if not the best team in the world right now, but they can still improve undoubtedly. I don't think there's any area in particular that needs improvement. I don't think one area sticks out more than the other, but I think as a team, anything can be improved always.
Yeah, and I think the encouraging thing is the noises that we've heard coming out of Anfield are very much in tune with that kind of old school Ronnie Moran mentality that you're only as good as your last game. Don't be thinking that you've cracked it. I'd say the concerns or fears I would have as to what could derail our season, I absolutely give credence to the points that you lads have put forward. I think arguably that our biggest enemy, our biggest opponent is ourselves. There's no getting away from it. This is an outstanding Liverpool team, one of the greatest that there's ever been. It's almost like the game comes too easy to them at times, and I think that the encouraging thing is they've got the right people, not just in the coach's office, in the senior players in the dressing room. They all seem to have the right kind of mentality. But we saw in the game against Salzburg that if you take your eye off the ball for 2 minutes in any of these matches at the level that Liverpool are operating at, it can come back to haunt you. All of a sudden 3-0 against Salzburg, cruising at 5 minutes before half-time, I was stuck in the office thinking, if they beat the 11-0 record against Strom's Godset here, I'll be fuming with myself. And then all of a sudden at 3-3, the whole complexion changed.
For the 7-0 last season, I remember.
For a song as well.
Yeah.
So the good thing is I kind of get the impression that these things that Klopp and Kravitz and Pep Linders and all the good people that they've got working there, they will keep their foot on the pedal. They will not be getting complacent. They will not be counting any chickens before they come home to roost. Next question. Greg Meyer 163. Should Liverpool not be in for Eriksen, and I'm going to assume that that's Christian rather than Sven Goran, when he's supposed to be going to Real Madrid for 25 million? Ian, would you have Christian Eriksen at Anfield?
No.
Short and sweet.
And there you have it.
In a word. Would you like to elaborate?
Yes. I don't know. I mean, he's a decent player. I've never been his biggest fan. I have to be perfectly honest. He's done a good job for Tottenham. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go down the road of Tottenham. What the hell's going on down there?
No,
we've heard all the rumours and all that thing, which may or may not involve him. Anyway, we don't want to say that. Yeah.
It came out on Twitter. All the players came out on Twitter to say it wasn't true. I mean, you can make your own mind up, but it seems mad, doesn't it?
Well, the other thing is, irrespective of that, he's not been playing for Tottenham, and he is one of their better players.
And he's also not really a Klopp type player, is he? What, is he 29 now? He's probably not as quick, he's not as versatile as Klopp's going to want.
Just the Klopp, an LFC type player. The club generally don't make those kind of transfers.
Make no mistake, he's obviously a very good player. He's very good at hitting a dead ball. He's creative. He can deliver crosses, and that's great. But
got a good shot as well.
I just don't think Liverpool need him.
He was linked with this a lot, wasn't he, 4 or 5 years ago? And I think, a mid-20s Eriksen, I think could absolutely have been a very useful acquisition for where Liverpool were at the time. But I would absolutely concur. For even for
25 million is not that much, is it really?
You'd be looking 200 grand a week.
Also, it's another central midfielder in the team, a squad that's got an awful lot of them. If he was a left winger, then I'd be slightly more inclined to go, ooh, that's not bad.
No. All right. Well, we're fairly unanimous on that. We're not bringing in Eriksen. Another next question is also about an individual player from @Jonesy Wayne Jones for the uninitiated. Will Naby Keita ever make it at Liverpool?
Now, I know that Joe Rimmer is constantly worried about Naby Keita for our regular listeners. I think he will. I think possibly even in the next couple of weeks we'll start to see why he was bought. I feel he was, last season he didn't actually have that many injuries. He just got them at the wrong times, and because he tended to get injured during the course of a game. You think of Napoli was one. There was another one. Barcelona. I'm sure there was another one on top of that where he had to go off. It just looked worse than what it actually was, and I think the crowd are quite keen for him to kick on. They want him to do well. I think he's been. I'm not saying it. What was it? £52.75 million, which is that Liverpool's third most expensive player. Yeah, and he's managed to avoid all the scrutiny because the team's doing that well, and that's kind of helped him. Should have helped him settle because he's not really had that pressure. The only pressure he's had, Klopp's not put him under any pressure at all. The only pressure he'd had was on himself, and he had to deal a little bit with pressure from Guinea over the summer, which didn't help him. Having to go off to the African Cup of Nations.
He was nowhere near fit,
and ended up getting injured again. Yeah. And then he came back and just when he probably would have played in that Super Cup against Chelsea, gets injured again there. So he has been a bit unlucky in that, just injured at the wrong times, and I think a lot of Liverpool fans want to see what he's about. I think there was so much excitement when he had that full year of like, is he coming or is he not? Then he was. And then he had to wait another year. And really, since then, he's not managed to put consistent performances together, whether at Leipzig or at Liverpool. For whatever reason, niggling injuries or something's been weighing on his mind, or the thought coming to Liverpool then adapting. But he's been here for 15 months now, and I genuinely think in the next couple of weeks, because he's going to be fit as far as I'm aware, he came on, didn't he, against Leicester towards the end. I think he'll have a big part to play in these games that's coming up, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually does something pretty special.
Yeah, what I was going to say, and I absolutely agree, and I think it's going to come very quickly into the forefront of everything. This transfer team that we have in the form of like Michael Edwards and everybody else would not have spent £52 million on a player if they weren't absolutely 100% sure of just how good he is. And we know first game played for Liverpool was that 4-0 against West Ham, start of last season, first game, and he was absolutely excellent that day. And you just thought, oh wow, what a player. Of course, we know about his injuries, we know about his stops and starts, but he has still shown flashes of that brilliance in a fair few matches that he's played in. He's clearly got a lot about him. He's got really good skill on the ball and running forward. And there's so much he can add to Liverpool's game, particularly from that midfield, which has come under, criticism from time to time about a lack of creativity, which is probably unjust for the role they play, but we'll leave that one there. But Keita particularly, I think, the fact he's fit now, the fact he's not been, dragged off to Africa to go back home to play when he's not fit, and there's pressure on him to probably be the best player in Guinea's team, and then to perform at that level as well in the African Cup of Nations when other teams are going to want to take him out of the game because then you'll probably beat Guinea and things like that. He's going to be really well looked after at Melwood. He's going to be back and he's going to be firing fit, and I'm excited. But in shocks absolutely no one that listens to this podcast.
I am myself. I agree. I think there's definitely a player there. I think he's had rotten luck so far. I think particularly just as the last season was kind of reaching its crescendo, he got his first goal at Southampton, which was a vital equaliser at the time when we were 1-0 down and struggling. Went on to a very important 3-1 away victory. Then I think he scored in the next game, didn't he, at home to Porto, which was his first goal at Anfield. And you just kind of thought, wow, what a great time to just be clicking into form just as we get to the business end of the season. And then very unfortunately he got injured in the Camp Nou, didn't he, during the first leg of the Champions League.
But for Klopp to even start him in the Camp Nou clearly shows you quite what they think. Yeah. And how he performs, because Klopp puts so much on training, how people are doing, how people are performing week in, week out. And, he's getting a start at the Camp Nou.
That was a big vote of faith from the manager, without a doubt. I think what hasn't helped him as well is the fact that, like Doyle said, there was a lot of rumours before we signed him, and then we signed him to come in a year's time. So there was the big build-up when we were all watching Bundesliga games, and he looks great, and I'm waiting for him to arrive. So I think possibly there was a bigger expectation heaped on his shoulders, even more so as much as the price tag, because of the long kind of introduction that we had to him before he actually put a red shirt on. There was one quote I read from Klopp quite recently in one of our stories in the last week or so, when he actually said in one of the recent, he played at Milton Keynes in the League Cup, didn't he? And I think Klopp said afterwards, basically the impression that Klopp is under is that he's a lot more settled in the club, in the city now, and particularly with the language. And he basically said something on the lines of, when I was giving him tactical instructions, he seemed to understand what I was talking about. Yeah, and it was a bit of a standout quote. I was thinking, so he didn't last season then, and maybe maybe the lad's got to take a bit of responsibility for that himself, because if he knew he was coming to England a year in advance, it might have been a bit of an idea to learn the lingo. But anyway, from the sounds of it, he is very much aware and awake to what's happening now, and hopefully. I thought he played very well at Wembley in the Charity Shield, the little cameo that he had there. And you get the impression that him and the people around him are really determined to make the best of this opportunity he's got to play for the mighty Reds. Right, so last couple of questions now, chaps. This one is from Matza71. Do we think Herr Klopp will go all out to win the World Club Cup Thingy-Bob Trophy in Qatar in December?
Oh, Liverpool play so many games in December, don't they? I think they're playing a game just about every other day.
Pretty much.
Everybody knows the time around Christmas, especially for Premier League games, is an absolutely vital time. You can come out into the new year with a lead, and you're in a really, really strong position to take it into the business end of the season. I would love to see Liverpool win it. It's a trophy they've never won. But I just think it will depend on just how December is going, because, if he picks up one or two injuries, if, Liverpool need to perform absolutely 100% in their Premier League games, and not that they wouldn't anyway, I don't mean it like that, but they need to put everything on that game. I just think there might be a bigger priority at stake, particularly how we've started this start of the season. However, that being said, if everything's looking rosy by that point, if Liverpool still have their lead, if everybody's fit, I see absolutely no reason why he doesn't just absolutely go for it and bring another piece of silverware home.
I think the timings and the fact it's in Qatar might help Liverpool, because obviously in the past when they played in this, it's been in Tokyo, which is in Japan, by the way, which is on the other side of the world, and that's quite a trek for them to get there. And it's
Alan Wicker,
and
actually goes on the other side of the world.
Yes, it is. They got Rugby Union World Cup going on there.
They do.
Go away.
And a typhoon.
I know, yeah. Your mate's going. Yeah.
They are,
yeah. Anyway. Where were we? Yeah. Well, it's in Qatar. It's only 3 hours difference in terms of time. I think the flight's 6 hours direct from Manchester. Not that I've looked into these things, of course. But it won't have as much of an impact in that in terms of there won't be any jet lag, there won't be any of that kind of thing. Okay, 6 hours is not great for travelling, but it's not insurmountable. And the actual dates of the games aren't too bad. Liverpool, I think, play on a Saturday. Then they would presumably then they would presumably go out and they'd play one game on the Wednesday, one on the Saturday, and the next game after that is Leicester on Boxing Day. At least that's what it is at the moment.
Leicester away.
So,
which I think is the Thursday or Friday. So
there's a big enough gap. What I think might happen, because Liverpool won't really discover who they're playing in the first game, semi-final, until about 3 days before the game's actually on, because I think, is it Monterrey, the Mexican team, are going to be playing?
Monterrey. There was 3 or 4 we could play. Monterrey were the kind of like the biggest name of them.
They're definitely in that
in that quarter-final. England were based in '86, by the way, Monterrey.
Yes, it was.
Of course it was, yeah. So we're not completely anti-England there.
Yeah. Quarterfinals, they play quarterfinal, whatever it's called, to qualify for this thing. And they play, I think it's a team from Caledonia have to play, New Caledonia, have to play before then. So the point being, Liverpool might end up playing a team that's slightly lesser than some of the other opposition. And Klopp might go, right,
Deportivo Saprissa,
I'm only going to play half a team, so I'll take X, Y, and Z and leave the others at home, and they can come out a bit later. That's just a suggestion. Don't know what the logistics are, but presumably there's enough flights going out to Qatar that they'd be able to sort something. So, in answer to the question, I think he does want to win it. Yeah. I think he definitely does want to win it. He'll love that. To be the first Liverpool manager, and well, actually, not so much to be the first Liverpool manager, but to be part of the first Liverpool team, to be the greatest team in the world officially. Yeah, would be a big deal for him, and would be a big deal for Liverpool.
Yeah. Well, Liverpool as world champions would be great. Yeah,
it's not. We kind of dismiss it simply because Liverpool haven't won it, if we're being honest, and. I know Benitez in 2005, Rafael Benitez, when they didn't beat, Sao Paulo and the offside goal.
3 offside goals.
Yeah, basically, they were all...
Rob battered them.
Yeah, they should have won that game.
Watching it on Sunday morning after the work out with a stinking hangover, fuming I was.
So they should have won that. Benitez was fuming afterwards, and he's still, presumably, if you still ask him about it, you know what he's like, he'll probably still fume about it. He'll remember every single incident from that game. I don't think Klopp's quite the same as that, but... He'd want to win it. Liverpool want to win it. What's the point of...
Why be anything?
The answer to your question is look at how they approach the Super Cup and their reaction to that, and that is your answer to that question.
Yeah. I concur entirely. I, as much as, I think there is something what you say about, becoming part of the first Liverpool team to become world champions. I think I get the sense that they've taken such pride in what they've done 18-19, and the Super Cup, the Charity Shield, and the World Club Cup are really an extension of that, and a way of kind of cementing and solidifying the phenomenal achievements of 97 points and European champions. So I also think as well, success breeds success, and if they're able to, if they're able to bring a bit of silverware back to Anfield halfway through this season, when obviously we've started fantastically well, 8 wins out of 8, top of the league, success can be contagious, and I think as well as kind of like rubber stamping what happened last year, I think it could also get a nice little kind of little boost of confidence and ego for what we're hoping to achieve this season as well. So
be writing in copy, you're coming to play the world and European champions.
Yes.
Well, let's hope we're all right in that. Come mid-December and early January, we shall see. Last couple now, lads. This one is from Skino Mino. He personally thinks Alisson will change our defence for the better massively. Yeah. Presumably once he returns. Does he come straight back into these big games coming up, or do we stay with Adrian, who is obviously not as good but has the rhythm from playing?
Ooh. I'll go first.
We'll go second.
Okay. If Alisson is 100% fit, he's playing. Simple as that. If he's not 100%, even if he's 95% and he doesn't feel massively confident on his calf that he got injured, there's no reason to take Adrian out. There's no reason to risk Alisson. Adrian's done, as we mentioned before, he's done a very good job, better than anyone could have expected. But he knows, everybody else knows, Alisson is the number one goalkeeper for Liverpool. Adrian knew that when he joined. He just wasn't expected to be playing so often straight away. But if Alisson's fit, he plays. But Liverpool have got themselves into a nice position, Jurgen Klopp has, where he doesn't have to chuck the goalkeeper straight in. Yeah. He said that, he doesn't have to make him. And another winner in this whole sequence of games has been Queven Kelleher, who did
really well.
And I know that they really, really like him. Paul Gorst did did a piece earlier this
Spoke to
week.
John Axberg about it, didn't he?
Yeah, said he's one for the future.
Yeah.
And he's a big fan. So yeah, Connor.
Yeah, no, I was going to mention the same thing actually with Klopp saying, the fact that Adrian has performed so well, he hasn't needed to rush Alisson back in. But I thought that was quite telling in terms of, if Adrian was having a nightmare and Liverpool were losing games, conceding many, and he just looked, I think they probably would have. Alisson probably would have seen him already, I imagine.
I agree.
So it's exactly as you said, if Alisson is fit, if Alisson is ready, and they've been able to take their time with him to get him to 100%, the noises they were making before the international break is this extra period of rest he's going to have is going to mean he is ready, and he'll be raring to get back on the pitch. He's not going to want to sit on the sidelines with this Liverpool team, go on to achieve all of this, and he's probably got another insane chance of winning the Golden Glove.
Basically 2 months, isn't it? What was it, August the 9th?
Yeah.
More than 2 months, isn't it? 10 weeks.
And it must have dragged unbelievably for him.
Yeah, there's 2 international breaks.
No, that's exactly it though. But as I say, if he is ready, he comes straight back in because he is a superior goalkeeper. There is no getting around that. The difference he makes to Liverpool's defence, the difference he made to Liverpool's defence, despite having Van Dijk, was just unbelievable. And they'll welcome that back with open arms as soon as he is ready. But that's not a slight on Adrian in any way, shape or form. It's just quite simply, Alisson is a better goalkeeper.
Yeah. And like you say, the Liverpool are in a terrific position now where they don't need to make any hasty judgments on it. I do remember this time last week or so watching Klopp's press conference ahead of the Leicester game, and he was asked about Alisson, and he kind of kept his card. In fact, I think we spoke about it on Blood Red last Friday actually, and he kind of left a little bit of a glimmer saying, well, basically I'll make my mind up tomorrow. But that said to me that he is, if he'd had to put him in, he could have done. But because he knows now he can trust Adrian, and he's settled in brilliantly in defence and the team are playing well with him, he was happy to give Alisson that little bit longer, because calf injuries are awkward, aren't they? Particularly with a goalkeeper, all the jumping that you can do. Even if it's only 99% right, why even take a chance with that 1%? But all the noises we've been hearing.
One of our questions is called a mid-table Man United.
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to go down that road because pride cometh before a fall and all that. Penultimate question, a little bit of a left field one from _fuzzy_Dunlop. Beans on a fry up, yay or nay?
Absolutely, 100% yes.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
For our listeners from abroad, we're talking about a fry up is a traditional English breakfast. What would it normally have in it, Dan?
It would normally have, in order of significance, I would say, bacon.
No,
No, I like beans, but I'd have them fairly low down there. I'd actually have them below mushrooms in the significance-ometer. Controversial.
I wouldn't have mushrooms on at all, but we'll come to that.
Well, you're from St Helens. Bacon, sausage, egg.
Yep.
Classic.
What kind of egg? Fried egg has to be.
No, I would always go scrambled or poached before fried.
To be honest, I wouldn't mind. Yeah. Can you? No, it needs to be either scrambled or
I'd say fried is more conventional on a fry. But I like to live. I don't live by the rules, Connie.
Deep fried bread in. Anyway.
Actually, I'd always go eggy bread above fried bread. Mushrooms are absolute non-negotiable. Mushrooms have to be on there.
Yeah, I agree that mushrooms are non-negotiable. They cannot be on. You cannot have mushrooms.
Toast.
Hash brown?
Oh. Yeah, I'm into a hash brown.
Love hash browns and beans. That's what they're made for.
Yeah.
But I think one of the biggest questions is, and what some people really get very wound up about, do the beans have to be protected from the rest of the plate?
With the sausage?
A lot of places now, and I'm not, this isn't just one for We Want plates, that very interesting and entertaining Twitter account.
It is very good, actually. Yeah, yes.
A lot of places now will serve it in a little kind of a little pot, and some people take great offence and great umbrage if the beans should happen to touch some of the elements on the plate. Now, to me, get over yourselves. It's all going the same way, isn't it? But, opinions.
Beans. Just love beans. Don't care how they come. I'm going to pour them on anyway.
Beans, good for your heart.
I do love how excitable we've got on this question compared to all
more
the football.
More than any of the football.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I think we've kind of concurred that beans are yes.
Beans are a yes.
Beans are a yes for a fry, but mushrooms...
I mean, at the end of the day, you have to say, what colour are beans? Red.
Really? Kind of orangey, I'd say.
Well, they're more red than blue. Last question.
Certainly, you don't want to be eating light blue beans.
I think it's made me hungry, this. Last question from @TalkingRed22. How many of the current squad do you think will be back for Liverpool Legends games in the future, many years from now?
Is this because the Liverpool legends are playing a game on Saturday up in Ibrox Stadium against
Glasgow Rangers? They certainly are, yes. We'll be providing you with live updates.
We have Theodore Squires is going up there.
He is indeed.
He's going,
match analysis.
And player ratings, obviously not as funny as the ones I'd do, but there you go.
Well, if you say so yourself.
Well,
you never know with Theo, actually.
To be fair, I've laid down the challenge there, and I should be keeping a...
Laid down the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Well, as you've had first dibs on all the questions, I'm going to jump in first on this one. I'm going to say Milner.
Just one.
One.
Just that's the only one.
Oh, actually, it was how many, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think all of them will.
No, I can't. I'm
going to say Milner. I'm going to say Henderson.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Divock Origi because the man is a living legend and will be till the day he dies, which we hope is many, many years from now.
Wow.
Andy Robbo. I can see
Trent.
Robbo turning out.
Trent's
a scouser. Trent will be there.
Who won't? I can't see Salah, Mane or Firmino.
No.
Can't see any of them
either.
Can't see any of them.
I can see Mane, you know. I can see Mane coming
Adrian
back.
will. 100% Adrian.
100%. 6 games he's played.
Van Dijk and Wijnaldum, just with the way they are, I wouldn't be surprised if they played.
The Widge definitely will.
Yeah.
The who?
Imagine Van Dijk in a Legends game, by the way.
The Wijnaldum.
Wijnaldum,
Yeah.
I think quite a lot of them, to be honest with you. A lot of the starting 11 are just the front three. I think I find it tricky to pin down, perhaps.
Particularly if
Lallana will,
things,
but he'd be injured.
Yeah, and Keita. if this season kind of plans out the way we hope it is with more silverware, I think if we're able to look back on 2019 to 2021, say as a period of unprecedented Liverpool success, I think in 10, 20, 30 years' time, you will get the bulk of the core of this team coming back because, listen, they may all go on to do different things, but you look at them. I was watching something only the other day, and there was footage from Madrid that, even though it was only 4 months ago, it felt like ages since I'd watched anything from it. And just seeing the look on their faces, what it meant to all them, you could tell it meant certainly an awful lot, as much to them as it did to us. I think they will be happy to come back to Liverpool from wherever they're living in 30 years' time to reminisce and talk about quickly taking corners.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, actually, you mentioned how much it all meant to the players, and the reactions were absolutely sensational across everyone in Madrid. But you, Ian, pointed out to me and told me to watch Dejan Lovren.
Yeah.
And if nobody's watched back that footage, watch Dejan Lovren for the whole thing, and he's just grabbing every single person's shirt around him and just is like wanting to rip their shirts off. It's amazing watching him, but it just epitomises just how much it meant to every single one of them up and down. Because he didn't even play, but he was still that incredible cheerleader from the sidelines. And yeah, absolutely. But yeah, in answer to the question, and as we have answered pretty well, I think a lot of this team are coming back to play for Legends.
And I also think Klopp would come back and manage them as well.
God, yeah. Oh, without
imagine that. 15 years down the line.
Well,
it would be so good.
It's something to look forward to in the future, but I think we've got some, hopefully a fair bit of real, live, competitive action to watch.
And that type of some real legends.
This wonderful Liverpool team in action over the next few weeks and months.
Getting attacked by me for this. Thank you for that.
We'll wrap that up for now from today's special Q&A version of the Blood Red podcast. As mentioned, our esteemed pal and colleague Theo will be on his way to Glasgow tomorrow to watch the Legends in action against the Rangers Legends, and we'll have updates from that, as well as, of course, all the updates from the international break. And on Monday, we'll be back with another podcast for you and finally some real football. Thank you for listening. Have a good weekend, kids. Up the Reds.